Right.
So, is this the first time you visited this pub?
No.
It's not. Would you consider yourself a local?
No, because we live in Wimbledon.
I see.
But
I
we
see.
come here probably once every 2 months.
Okay. Is there a specific reason for that?
Yeah, we meet up as a group of 4
Nice.
who all used to work with each other
Okay.
30 plus years ago
Very nice. Where did you work?
in Holborn.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah.
Is that like a little reunion?
Yes.
I've been here quite a lot. Over the years, yeah, quite a few times.
I've been here a few times, not as much as him. Do you consider yourself a local?
Yeah, well, I've been.
Certainly not, no.
Would you consider yourself a local?
I live upstairs.
So very much local. How many times? I mean, how many times do you come here a week or a month? I guess.
I'm in here every day because I live here.
Okay. So, is this your first time to this pub?
No, I've been a few times.
You've been a few times. Would you consider yourself local?
Not exactly. I think I live about a half hour's walk away from here.
Okay.
So I come here from time to time, but it's not where I'd be most regularly.
Would you consider yourself a local?
Yes, yeah, I would.
How many times a week or like a month do you come here?
Well, probably two or three times a week.
Is this the first time that you've been to this pub?
It is. Me and my friend over there, we like to try different pubs that are a bit out of our way. So sometimes he'll say, let's go to this pub in Nunhead or wherever it is.
Unfortunately not. No.
Would you consider yourself a local?
I would do in this pub, yeah.
Would you live around the corner?
No, I live in Peckham, but I make a point of coming to this pub because the people in here are nice people. The people that run the pub are nice people.
Who do you normally go to the pub with? You've obviously got this group, but is there any other specific?
Yeah,
groups
I've got several groups of blokes
Okay.
that I tend to go to a pub with.
Yeah, there's about 2 or 3 of us that we normally go to the pub with. Close friends, basically. Yeah.
Is there any reason that you go to some drinking? Do you think being together, enjoying each other's company?
Yeah, it's a good way of being able to talk to each other as well as being in a social environment as well. You can do it at home, but it's also nice to be in a social environment with other people around you as well.
Live music.
Is there any specific reason for the other groups, or is it more just meeting up and having a chat sort of thing?
I mean, these are groups that have probably evolved over time. So one of the groups that I go with is what is termed as a year 2 dad's group.
Okay.
So my oldest daughter, who's 28, when she was in year 2, a group of us got together, so we go to the pub or we go for a curry.
So, the person I used to go to the pub with most has moved out of London. And then the other one I used to go to the pub with a lot is an alcoholic and has gone to rehab. And so he can't really go to the pub anymore. And he's come out the other side of it. So we're kind of hoping that he's... Yeah. So I don't really have many people to go to the pub with anymore.
I don't prefer to go alone, but I do go. Most of the time I go alone.
Is there a specific reason for that?
Well, I just can't be bothered to try and get other people to go to the pub with me. Sometimes I come with friends.
If I'm in here, I've known the landlord for 6 or 7 years, so I drink with him. There's a couple of very good friends who are in here, a couple of the other tenants. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people in here that I know. I know virtually everyone who walks through the door. So when I walk in, it is like home.
Well, now I spend my time sort of half in the UK and half in Italy, and I'm going to Turkey on Thursday because my partner is Turkish and she's going to see her family, so I'm going there with her as well. So when I'm in London, usually my partner's working abroad, so I'm just here. I don't have my partner to hang out with, so I'll go to the pub to see my friends. So it's kind of like, I guess, when I'm in London, I'm like, well, I should see as many of my friends as possible because I don't get to see them when I'm in Milan. So yeah, and yeah, I guess it depends. You know, it depends on the time of the year. Obviously, like in summer, you're more likely to go and hang out like during the daytime in the pub when the weather's nice.
How many times a week would you say
you go to the pub?
Just this one,
No, like I don't know. It depends, right? Because it's, I'm just got a house and stuff, so I'm being a bit mature nowadays. So I don't go out. So I just come for a Swifty here and there. Night, like I said, local pub after, and if anybody wants to join. But it's always nice to sit on my own.
3 times a week.
Depends if I'm in the UK or not. I live about half the time in Milan, so there less often because my partner lives there, but I don't know that many people there, so I don't have many people to go out with. In London, maybe a couple of times a week. Obviously, much less during the pandemic.
Oh, to other pubs?
Yeah.
When occasion arises, really. I mean, most of my local friends drink here anyway. Okay. But we do go to a couple of other pubs up the road. We also play pool matches. We're in a Lewisham and Southwark Pool League.
Nice.
And there are 4 or 5 other venues within about 5-mile radius of one another. We're playing a pool match tonight against the Rising Sun. It's just down the road on Lewisham Way. So we go to their pubs for away matches and a few other local pubs as and when the fancy takes us.
Do you feel any generational connection to the pub? Like, does the environment remind you of anyone or any specific people in particular?
My dad, I used to live in North London, and my dad worked in London, and he would often go to the pub after work for a beer or 2.
I've been coming to this pub since I was about 10 years of age. So I've I wouldn't say I've grown up in this pub, but I know a lot of people in this pub, so I feel comfortable in this pub.
Do you have any generational connections to the pub as a space? Like, did you used to go with your dad and mum?
No. I'm not. Originally, I'm from the north of England.
Okay.
Not for me. I was born in Jamaica, so most of my family is from Jamaica. So I'm not really used to the pub over here.
Yeah, I'm a bit different. Obviously, my parents. I was born in Manchester, so my parents from up north. So obviously, there's a big pub culture up there. So they pretty much did the same thing and going to the pub quite often as well with their friends and that.
Did you get reminded of them when you come to the pub? Did you have any fond memories?
Yeah. So even as a kid, sometimes you'd go with them. As a kid and that. So it's a familiar environment, even as a kid. It's great.
Did you ever used to go to the pub with your dad?
Not a lot, because we moved down to Poole in Dorset, and his sort of drinking, because it wasn't central London, he was driving to work and driving home. Not a lot, but occasionally we would go out at the weekend to a country pub for a pint or something. Yeah.
No, my dad gave up drinking, smoking, and chocolate, and lots of other things when he had a midlife crisis in the 70s. Before I was born, so no, I never went to the pub with my dad. Never had a drink with my dad. Never. I mean, I had a drink while my dad was sitting there not having a drink.
Like my dad for sure. Like my mum would pick him up from the pubs, and we'd go to this pantomimes for the social clubs, at Christmas. Yeah. It's always the working men's clubs, and there was a couple in because I'm from Coventry, so there'd be the Albany Social, and then there'd be the Railwayman's, which weirdly I bought a house across the road from it. Yeah. But we'd have the pantomimes there, and but it was back in the day smoking, and my dad had bronchitis and he quit smoking and stuff, but he was still going in the pubs and it's bad. Yeah. And he'd always ring the phone 3 times for my mum to go and pick him up, because he didn't want to waste his money in the payphone. So if it rang, but we'd always be kids like, hello, he's like, fuck yeah. He'd only go for 2. He weren't a draw. So my dad and my brothers, I'm a big family, so my brothers and sisters.
No, I moved down to London to complete my studies when I was 21. I've been down in London ever since. I'm 46 now. My family is still back up in Liverpool. There's only me out of my family that are down here.
So there's a pub in Cornwall in the centre that has photos of, which I used to go to with my grandfather a lot when I was a kid, and I've gone back, and it's very like pubs in Cornwall are a village pub has really deep, it's a deep rooted thing, do you know what I mean, more than in London, because it's the only place people really have to come together as a community, say. And so that pub, there's a pub in St Earth which I feel memory. Yeah, I've been to lots, and it evokes memories of childhood and people who have gone through the years, and yeah.
Do you have any like generational connections to the pub? Did you go with your dad? Does the pub environment remind you of anyone in particular, family or?
No, I mean I didn't grow up in this country. I grew up in Norway, where it's a bit different. I mean, we had like a neighborhood pub as well, but it's not as big of a thing as it is over here. But I think it does. Yeah, so no, not like that. No,
not at all. Do you think that the frequency of time that you've spent in pubs has changed throughout your life? So since you were younger, do you think you spent more or less time, and do you think there's a specific reason for this other than drinking?
I think probably less time overall. I think, which, yeah, I think just has a lot to do with having other stuff going on. I mean, it's not as much the like focus of my social life as it used to be when I was younger.
I've had a baby recently, so I've got a 1-year-old. So I don't go to the pub as often as I did.
Fair enough.
I certainly did go to the pub. Sometimes I go by myself now.
That's very fair.
Where I can, if I have a moment where my wife's doing something, I might just for old time's sake go and sit in the pub by myself.
Well, yeah, so I'd go with, back in the day, I'd go with like young, like all my mates would all meet at the same place, like the Wetherspoons, and for example, get drunk there, go to town. And I remember I was like, oh man, I'll never sit on my own in a pub. Like you always see those dudes, like there's a couple of lads out the window there, but like I'm one of those dudes. But you just appreciate it better. It's just nice little pint. Just a beer garden definitely goes down well, but in the winter, it's culture, isn't it? So it's nice to see these sort of bars and stuff and take it all in.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I used to go in a kind of going out. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I used to go quite a lot. That's as much as I can. I've always gone to the pub quite a lot. I've always enjoyed it as a social experience.
So are there reasons
now,
other than drinking, would you say?
Now I try not to drink as much, because basically I think alcohol is poison. Yeah. It's really hard to stop drinking. But it's interesting when you see the devastation it can cause in people's lives. So like I said, I have a friend who's in rehab. I've got quite a few friends in rehab. Really? They're dropping off like flies, really. It's all fun when you're like 22 or something, but when you hit 30, they all go a bit. It all gets a bit sad, and some people don't make it. And actually, do you know what I mean? It's shocking to see the damage it can do. So I've always got in my head it's not a very good thing, but then you're always brought back by that sense of comfort. Because it's really nice going to the pub.
Do you like coming here specifically because of that sort of multi-generational environment?
I do. And it still looks like a proper pub.
Again, it's a mixture of the social environment and being able to be with your friends at the same time. It's a good mix of that.
Would you say there's a specific reason behind why you go to pubs other than drinking? I mean, obviously you've got your pool, but
yeah, the crack, as the Irish would say.
Yes,
it's good fun. I mean, I can't deny that the sporting events, I don't have access to Sky Sports or BT Sports or anything like that. But I think even if I did, I would still want to come in for the big games. I would still want to come in for my team's matches. I'm a Liverpool fan, because particularly in the big games, the atmosphere is absolutely fantastic. The England games, the place is absolutely rocking.
No, so I think it has a lot to do with the fact that me and a lot of people that I know, we kind of live sort of cramped in shared housing and that kind of thing. So it's kind of like a public living room kind of thing. It's just a good place to be.
And there's some proper old geezers that still drink here, and then there's young people as well, and a sort of range of people. So I thought it was quite nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that, because again, people don't always have that much space at home, or live with a lot of other people, that in a way it's kind of more private, I guess, than home a lot of the time, which I think, definitely, from what I understand, that historically, since it's a place where you're not at home and people get away from their family, get away from their regular surroundings, that it feels freer for people, I think. And in a similar way, I guess it's like not having to worry about my housemates, who are lovely for the record, but like, you know, like it feels more private in a way.
It's a nice release after work, even to come out for a couple of hours after work. Like, I work 7 till 5 every day, 5 days a week, and it's nice to come out for a couple of beers after work.
I've been quite physical. Well, I've been diagnosed with a lot of different illnesses in the last 5 or 6 years. So I do find going to the pub, because I don't go to work anymore, and some of the other avenues have been cut off of it. Going to the pub and just being able to chat, you know, and it's an important thing for me. So
yeah, I mean it's companionship. So you know, we're here today, 4 of us who have worked with each other since I first met a couple of these guys in 1979. So that's 40 years ago. So we go to meet, we go to chat. It's a bit of camaraderie, really.
It's just nice, but when with friends and stuff, like it's cool. You get to catch up, and there hasn't been that. I haven't seen a lot of friends since COVID kicked off. But
do you feel like the pub is a predominantly male environment? And would you say that men are more connected to the pub as a space than women?
That hasn't been my experience of it, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Like, at least when I used to go with this, like, when we had, like, a pub crew, it was pretty 50-50 in that sense. Like, it hasn't really... Not in a way that's really stuck out, like, to me, I think.
Not this one. No. It's got the old guard of sort of proper sort of Deptford geezers that come here, and there's quite a lot of younger women that come in here, and obviously men as well, young men as well. But I don't think it's not a particularly blokey sort of pub.
Not at all, not in this pub particularly, but there's pubs that I've been in where I would agree with that, but this pub, not at all. Everyone's one of our own, and everyone's part of everyone in there. You know what I mean?
Pubs have a more male, I think, alignment to them. But I go to the pub with my wife occasionally, but I wouldn't, in an evening I would go out with a mate and we would go to the pub and drink several pints of beer.
Yeah. So do you think men are more connected to the pub as a space than women?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea why, or would you say there's any reason for that?
I think it's just historic.
Yeah.
I really do, and pubs tend to be more male orientated, and I think, women perhaps prefer, a bar, cocktails, that type of thing. Pubs obviously have changed, but a pint of bitter is generally not what my wife would be drinking.
Yeah. Pubs in general used to be very, very masculine, and there was very little attention, I think, paid to making it an inviting environment for women to come.
Yeah, I think, well, if you just come in here now, there's just a load of lads just sitting all around the outside. And so I think maybe, but like, depends what areas in London. Like in Coventry, for sure. If you go to Peckham, you're going to see the old pubs, and the pubs in London, you're going to get your old generation, the kids, which is cool. Just keeping the pubs going, and then you still got your locals. Like I remember in Peckham, the Canavans. Yeah, so you'd all have, mate, it's sad it closed down, but you'd have the Irish lads and all that, and the old men just going back to the pool halls, but they'd be walking through the dance floor with their cues. So like all these kids wearing old, classic 90s stuff, and they, so it's a weird vibe, and it's a shame that pub closed down, but it's that kind of fact.
I wouldn't say that. Well, okay, we've seen more men in pubs I think, in general.
It's probably slightly. It depends slightly, but I wouldn't say it's over. I wouldn't say, I mean, there's probably a lot of women, a large percentage of women these days in certain clubs as well. So it's not overwhelming. It's got a bit of a masculine environment to it. It's not overwhelming.
It's not like the old days where you have all like man pub sort of thing. It's very, it's more mixed these days.
Would you say that men are more connected to the pub as a space than women?
I've never really seen it as a particularly gendered space. Just for like I've always gone to pubs with women and men, so it's like I go to the pub with my friends who are both, and I've got a pretty equal split of friends who are men and women. So for me, it's never felt like I'm going to the pub with the lads kind of. Yeah, for sure. It's not felt a gendered space.
People have recognised, and so many pubs have been closing down in the last 20 years as well, at an astonishing rate. And the existing landlords have had to come to the conclusion that they can't afford to cut off 50% of their customer base.
Yeah.
It is as simple as that. It's pure economics. As well as not making it an inviting environment for women. It's just stupid. People enjoy themselves more when there's women to have fun with and chat with and whatnot. It's just a nicer, pleasanter evening.
Yeah. So do you feel like the pub is like an essential part of generational interaction, or do you think?
For sure.
Do you think that's a thing to do with the male generations, or?
Well, I've got 3 brothers, 3 sisters, so my sisters were the first. I mean, of course, you go and pick your dad up from the pub now, but my sisters took me out first back in the day, and and then we. Yeah, me personally, I just think it's a bit of a mix. Because I get, but I mean, it depends what pub you're going to go to. Some old pubs where people it's just going to be the older gen, and then your local, your regular. So,
would you say that men feel more comfortable and more aware of their own emotions when they're in a pub environment? So like with this group you used to go with.
I don't know. I think maybe, but again, I think I might be missing some subtext there in terms of what all the culture around it kind of is in a way that like I maybe don't quite clock onto. But I think like in a way I want to say yes, just in the sense that like I've definitely had a lot of like heart-to-hearts in the pub.
Yeah.
But again, that is kind of because that's just where you go to talk, and so when you need to talk with a capital T, it will often also be in a pub, I guess.
I'd definitely say you're probably right in the sense of the pub being a kind of emotional liminal space where you can go and talk about things that I mean, I definitely like gone with my partner to talk about stuff that I wouldn't necessarily talk about with her at home.
100%, yeah, definitely.
Why do you think that is?
In the most least disrespectful way, I'd feel more comfortable as a man walking in the pub than a woman walking in the pub. And I don't know why I say that, but I feel like I don't know. I'm not going to stick myself in it, but
No, it's fair enough. Do you think that you have like meaningful conversations about your own emotions in the pub?
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And is it like a space? Is the pub where you come to have those conversations?
I feel more comfortable having them in a pub than outside of the pub. Put it that way, yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, I can go during the daytime for a coffee with a mate.
Yeah.
And, if I've got something I want to let off my chest, I can do it there. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, when you go to the pub and you've had a couple of drinks, obviously maybe your emotions run a little bit more than they would do if you're just going for a coffee at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Sometimes it's an escape. Sometimes they feel as though they can meet up with their friends and be a bit more open. But most of the men that I know don't tend to open up too much about their emotions in the pub. They might with their friends in private, but I don't tend to find that they're more emotionally available in such a public setting, even if they are surrounded by friends.
No, I wouldn't say so. No, I think it's pretty much the same as in any other environment. They're pretty stoic when it comes to emotions. Pub and no pub, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah. It's just another place to just chill out.
Do you ever feel like you come to the pub to have a difficult conversation with someone?
Actually, yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Actually, that is quite common. Actually, to be honest. Yeah. Strangely enough, yeah. Actually, ironically, you might actually end up meeting with a friend in the pub to have a chat. Yeah. It's a mutual ground.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. It depends. It would really depend on what kind of friends you're with. Because I think probably people have certain friends that they are more comfortable about talking about certain things with. I think in general, I find it easier to talk to women about emotional things in general. But again, like I said, and this may be a hangover from going to an all-boys school where men, I think men are problematic for lots of. I mean, if there are men who can find it really, really easy to talk to their male friends about all of their deep-seated emotional problems, then hats off to those people. But I think it certainly can be true that men do drinking and and also like stuff like football as a kind of emotional catharsis.
I think sometimes, yes, that it's. I mean, I go to the pub with a mate of mine, similar age, similar families, and we have a moan and groan about our kids, and then we move on to something else.
Yeah.
So you get that off your chest, and then that's it.
Would you say that you feel more comfortable, more aware of your own emotions when you're in a pub environment?
Probably just because I had a beer. But I've definitely let loose emotionally after alcohol in a pub with your mates. So like, I've had one friend come back from I hadn't seen him for 3 years. Best mate, I was best man.
Yeah.
He always calls me his longest friend, but not his best mate. I'm like, you cheeky bastard. What are you trying to say? He calls my brother his best mate. He goes, yeah, Philip's my longest mate. I'm like, why do you keep saying that? You cheeky bastard. So it's his way of saying that my brother's his best mate. It was weird because it was we're all mates. We've got this group, but no, it's like I had a few drinks. I hadn't seen him for a bit, and I broke up with someone and had some issues with people, and then it just comes out when you feel pretty comfy with the person that Yeah.
Well, no, I mean it's difficult because I'm quite. I enjoy I write a lot and I don't know quite how to describe it, but I don't have a problem with communication, like emotional communication. I don't have that problem at all.
You think the pub's a good space for that?
But it's interesting to see that, for other men who I know might have. Okay, so I'm thinking of one friend in particular who probably doesn't really speak much about his feelings, but it just and he doesn't speak about his feelings in the pub. It's just if you're chatting one to one, it's a space where that happens, and then he does say shit.
How would you describe the relationship between the pub and men's mental health? Do you think it plays an important part in it? I guess you're saying that you don't think in your life it does.
I think people need to have communal spaces where they can go and feel part of a community, and it doesn't have to be a pub. It could be anywhere. Obviously, the pub plays that role for some people, and that's good if they're getting that out of it.
Yes, it's a good way of men socialising with each other, getting together, relaxing, de-stressing. Yeah.
I think it's good in the sense that to the extent that it does provide a little different space to be in, in a similar way to how if you're stuck with a problem, sometimes you want to go for a walk or you just need to change your surroundings in some way. It's good that there's places where you can go to do that. But conversely, I guess alcohol really isn't good for one's mental health, kind of, and I think that can be difficult. Like, it can be difficult, especially like we're kind of saying. I guess there is like a precedent for, like, if you need to talk about something that you'll meet at the pub, but then again it's alcohol related, and that can be difficult. That said, like, a lot of people I know are quite good about taking breaks.
Definitely plays a big part in my mental health, in particularly, because I've had a lot of shit happen in the last year, and so blah blah blah, and coming to the pub is my release away from that stuff that's happening in my life. It's my time to forget about it and just enjoy myself, basically.
Yeah, it is a major way of socialising for me personally. Seeing friends, meeting other people who you don't know as well, just random chance. Talking to other people, maybe meeting new people.
Is it like that mode of socialisation becomes important for you to keep good mental health?
Yeah, during the pandemic proved the fact that not having this space to come and meet people, strangers and friends, was a big factor detriment to mental health.
And you get a lot of different experiences depending on which pubs you go to as well. A lot of times you end up meeting strangers and you're having a good connection with them as well.
Possibly. I think maybe I'm a bad person to ask this because I wouldn't say. I mean, maybe it's true for some men that they go to the pub largely with their male friends. I could totally see that happening. Like, if you're also in a long-term relationship and you make a distinction between you're hanging out with your partner at home and then you're getting some space from your partner by going to the pub with your friends.
I think maybe men don't spend as much time talking. Like, I call my friends up regularly just for a chat, and they speak to me, but then none of them do that amongst themselves. And I think it's interesting that, and I think that really a pub is a good place where, you know, men sit and speak. So I think it probably is.
I think that any place that can provide somewhere where men and women can get together, have a chat, have a drink, and can relax and enjoy themselves, whether that's watching a sporting event or just sitting in a corner at a table and having, you know, a bit of food and a couple of glasses of wine. I think that's always a good thing for your mental health.
But I don't think that kind of emotional catharsis necessarily means you're like having a really deep emotional conversation with those friends. Like, just because you're getting drunk with your friends and having a nice time and having a joke around, it doesn't mean it might you know, feel good for the camaraderie, but like, it's not therapy. Like, you're not going to be exploring your you know, neuroses and doing something about them. But you know, drinking with your friends is definitely not the only communal experience that can be like positive for your mental health. For sure. It would be nice if we could explore some of those other ways. But you know, for now, I'm happy to go and have a drink at the pub.
But I've had some chats in pubs and some deep ones, I think it's if I was pissed in my house, it'd probably happen the same. But like,
fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah.
Would you say that the pub plays an important role within your own life?
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. Like, you know, you think of your memories, your birthdays and stuff like that. You just think when you're 18, you'll be able to. Like, my first drink I bought was I don't get much money, but like my sister gave me a £50 note, because I've got older sisters, and they gave me, and so I bought my first drink, a legal drink, with a £50 note, and the guy was like, and that was at Webspin, so he probably stuck out. But yeah, it's just that you got your memories, you meet everyone there. You know, I mean, it comes out when you've had a drink in the pub.
Yeah, so
definitely.
Do you think that it's more to do with the alcohol rather than the environment? As you were saying, like, if it was to be in your own home and you were trying to have this, or someone was trying to have the same conversation and you were drinking, it would come out as well.
It's definitely alcohol, but like, I mean, I wouldn't, if I wanted to talk to someone, I wouldn't go to the pub and talk to someone about if I needed help with anything or let emotions I've got. But that's me personally, because I know enough people and I would want to be sober about it. And if I wasn't sober, I'd get pissed with, or come to a pub with someone I know who would listen.
Yeah.
Or I think they're listening, but yeah. So it's like, you know, you've got these certain people that you pick.
Of course, people who have a problem with drink, then it's not going to be of any assistance to them. But you hope that that the staff, and usually the staff are good at this, they have the wherewithal to see when somebody is drinking because they're in a bad place, and to make sure they keep an eye on them for their own welfare.
Like, so when we drank and all that jazz, and you know, you just appreciated, and you know, you cried saying that I helped him out loads in London. You know, I've done more for him than anything else, and he had some of the stuff that I brought up which were a bit like darker, and you know, and I was there to chat and listen, and sort of in a way, I mean, like, I'll be there to, you know, look after him if anything ever happens.
Yeah, I mean, it does play an important part in the landscape of men's mental health. Pub plays an important part in the landscape of men's mental health, both in that it facilitates destructive mental health, and it also facilitates men speaking when they might not speak otherwise.
If I was going to talk about, you know, my relationship problems, or I don't know, or like, I don't know, if I wanted to talk to like somebody about like, I don't know, something that had been troubling me emotionally, I would probably go to one of my female friends or my partner, rather than one of my male friends to talk about that. And that would probably not be at a pub.
You know, just he felt comfortable telling me. So
were you in a pub at the time? Or?
Yeah, literally over the road from me. It was the Jam Circus at the time in Brockley.
So yeah, do you think it provides that space? I don't know.
I think like when you go on a date and it's quiet like this and someone's sitting there, it's really awkward.
Yeah.
You need background noise. You need and it's. Yeah, if I was Pearson and we'd chat with and two dudes were crying, like it would stick out. But there's nothing wrong with sticking out. It's just, you know, some people might think, oh, they're fucked or they're drunk, but like, you know, everybody drowns in their own chats and stuff. So it's like you can get away with it, and it's not like you plan to go out to talk about it.
Yeah.
It just pops up because you're like, I'm glad you mate, I'm glad you come in London and.
How would you respond to the statement that men need an excuse to be together?
Yeah, men need a. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
You'd agree with the statement?
Yeah, you need a reason to be. Yeah, you 100% need a reason. I think it's, and you see that in families, like men in families. Have you noticed that, like, so my family, the only time that basically the way men bond in my family is they do things together. It's not ever them just sitting like having a cup of tea, or it's like oh yeah, we're all gonna go fishing together on a trip somewhere. You know what I mean? So that's it. Yeah, or whatever it is. So yeah.
The dynamics of any relationship mean that if a man wants to be with other male friends, then it depends on just how understanding their partner is. I don't think that single men necessarily need an excuse to be with other men in a social setting. But within a relationship, it's purely down to how understanding your partner is if you want to go out and just have some time with your friend.
How would you respond to the statement that men need an excuse to be together?
I don't know. I think it's a little more I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that question, actually. Like, I can see the truth in it. It's just that, like, personally, like with my friends, like in closer personal relationships, like I'm quite direct about stuff like that. Like, I will just, if I feel like somebody's having a bad time, I'll always like err on the side of being a bit too nosy rather than, or to call them up and say like, should we go talk, or So like on a personal level, I don't really have that particular hang up about feeling unsure or reserved about approaching my friends to have those kinds of conversations, but I do know that like people do, I guess, like, and I do see that kind of like togetherness in and of itself. But I don't know if going to the pub is like an excuse or per se, like it is just a spot that we have. Like I think in other places there's other kinds of social spaces to go to.
But I don't know. I don't think men need an excuse to be together. I mean, unless they're really repressed and they just really like, hanging out with each other and being buddies, but they have to like hide this under some kind of like emotional repression where they have to say, I don't like my friends, I just play football with these guys. I don't like them.
I don't think anybody needs an excuse to be together. I think men probably do need to be together, and so do women. And then men and women need to come together, as well.
I disagree with that. Men don't need to be together. I don't care who I'm with. I could be with 10 ladies. It wouldn't bother me. I'd still treat them the same way as I would if I was with 10 men. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think they actually really need an excuse, but I think sometimes the older you get, the pressures of family life and perhaps commitments, if you're married, become a little bit more difficult.
I don't think we need an excuse to hang out. I think just hang out with each guy. Nah, because a lot of times, most of our meetings are sporadic. It's like tonight, or this evening, I was coming from work and I was asking me when I was going to the pub. It wasn't anything particular that I needed. It was just like, let's go hang out.
Do you believe that women are better at talking about their emotions than men? If so, why do you think this is, or can you give me a reason?
So I don't think so. I don't think so. I think people avoid it and raise it in different ways. But I don't know about better or worse, kind of just different. And even then, I'd be a little bit. I think, like, when we say men and women in this context, it's like a kind of shorthand.
Yeah.
Because I guess like people are socialized differently, and so it's not like it's a meaningless statement. But I think because people are socialized differently, people have different habits, and it's kind of cultural in a way. But I think it's more that I don't know. I don't think better. No, I think people just people hide in different ways, and people are open in different ways, and that's gendered to an extent, but not all the way. I think.
I think it's difficult. Women think they talk about their emotions, but my wife will tell me sometimes that she's been out with a girlfriend, and they haven't discussed anything sort of family-wise, husband, kids, or anything like that. But that may just be my wife. So
yeah.
I maybe women do talk more emotionally, but I think you've got to be the environment. It's got to be there, and the pub probably, because you've had a couple of drinks, allows that emotion to come out more.
I'm not sure they're better at it, but I think they talk about their emotions a lot more. But it depends what kind of men you talk to. I mean, I probably. I don't know. I've not studied this, so I mean, what I feel is not necessarily that relevant. But from what I've read, I think women, certainly traditionally, women were better at both dealing with their emotions and talking about them.
100%, definitely.
Could you give any reason for that at all?
So I'd put myself in trouble, but I've had ex-girlfriends open their heart to me, and unfortunately I'm not that sort of person that can open my heart the same way and answer the things that they're saying to me that I'm doing wrong in a relationship and things like that.
I just think women are slightly more open and honest when it comes to their emotions. certainly amongst other women. It may well be that there's, again, a machismo thing about it, that men don't want to talk about their emotions because it could make others think of them as weaker. But no, I've never known repressed women, but I've known plenty of repressed men.
I know it depends what you mean by communication. Yeah, because there are certain things for emotionally, like I'm thinking of the women in my life. They're just as fucked up and useless in terms of communication as the men, but it's just in slightly different ways. Okay, so trying to think how best to say it. So like communication is essentially about like admitting things about yourself, let's say, and accepting things about yourself and getting them out, right? And I suppose the point I think is that, you know, men communicate, like some men are bad at speaking about themselves and what they're feeling, and some women are bad at speaking about what they're feeling, but sometimes those things are just slightly different.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it's not like you can just say men are shit at communicating, women are good at communicating.
The difficulties they have are different.
Exactly. So the hang-ups and the challenges that the things they don't want to admit in the dark of the night are different, and so they come out in different ways. Women are more comfortable speaking about certain things, and men are more comfortable speaking about certain things.
Yeah, that's,
you know, maybe about commitment or in relationships or whatever it might be. You know, there are certain things women will not speak about, and I think it's the same with men. So I think it's an unfair thing to sort of put on men, but they're just kind of bad communicators and they don't emotionally connect with things, and it's So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably true in general, and I think that's because society socialises them to value that and to participate in that much more than it does to men. It's an element of the way that that patriarchy works. Men, you know, I mean, you see that from a quite a young age, you get like the ways that boys are socialised to be sort of like brave and steadfast and blah blah blah. And women, you know, girls are socialised to be perfect and that kind of stuff. I think.
Experience in life in terms of me, I'll probably say for you, like in terms of having girlfriends or talking to women, they generally are more open about that. It's just interactions with the women.
Yeah, I'm not sure men always suppress emotions. Sometimes we don't feel emotions in the same way women do, as in the opposite direction. We might be a bit more naturally less prone to spikes in emotion. There might be that element here as well.
I think there's a lot of pressure for men to be like strong or to not reveal too much of their emotions, so we have a tendency not to show it anyway. Or even if we don't feel it, even if we do feel it, we probably don't want to seem weak or vulnerable maybe.
So do you think it's almost like a pressure that society's put on men?
I think it is a bit of a pressure, but as you get older, you kind of get used to it, and you start to care less about it anyway. And you just reveal your emotions to people you care about.
Through answering the questions, have you learned anything about yourself? If so, would you be comfortable with sharing it?
No, it's nice to chatting. I was trying to look up some like see someone about just not like just meant, you know, just chat. And I know the online things are there, but I was just like, I don't.
It's not like conversational therapy.
Yeah, I want face to face. I did it years ago. I went deaf years ago in 19, and I went and saw someone in Portsmouth Uni, and I was just like, I just felt like it was a waste of time. But I see how it's good for people. But I didn't want to do Zoom chats. I know it's happening now, but like, of course, it's all dropped. So I think me personally is face to face, but it's got to be someone I don't know. So this has been pretty cool. Yeah. I just thought it was I was like, oh man, this is weird because it's like a recent thing that I've been thinking of. So I was like, well, yeah, fuck it.
Have you enjoyed the experience?
No, it's been cool, man. Yeah, for sure.
It made me think about the enjoyment of it made me reminded me of the pandemic and how much I missed the pub actually when you took me off those mental health questions.
Yeah. During lockdown it was hard not having pubs because we were used to going to the pub or just going out whenever we felt like it. During the pandemic it was very restricted.
I guess something just to kind of like, if I'm gonna like lay it out there and kind of try and say something meaningful about this, I guess like for me in the last years, and I'm 33 now, and for me in the last few years, I've kind of found that what's really helped for my mental health actually, and like I'm saying, like I'm not particularly shy about talking about that. I don't struggle to talk about it necessarily, but I've actually kind of found that the thing that has done me the most good is kind of solitude and exercise on my, like kind of on my own as well. That I think there's limits to how much, and again, somebody else would come at this from a really different angle, right? Like I know some people really struggle to articulate it or feel shy or feel insecure expressing fragility or weakness or what have you, but yeah, exactly. Well, that's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, that there's often that I think here's what I think. If going to the pub, drinking alcohol with your friends in the kind of hope that one goes there hoping to be able to break into this kind of intimate space where you feel like you can be yourself and you can talk, and that's the only context in which you feel you can do it, I think that's really unhealthy. Not only because of the alcohol and spending money and, you know, the kind of escapist side of it, but also that like you need to be doing other things. You need a varied life, and in a way I'm quite, you know, it was partially, like I said, a bunch of my friends moved away. I've gotten a bit older. There was the pandemic, all this kind of stuff. But something kind of shifted, and I just wasn't that interested anymore in doing that. And overall, I don't regret it. You know, I'm quite happy that my social life and also my relationship to my mental health is a lot more varied than it was. Because I did used to think, like, yeah, if I'm stuck with something, I'm going to go with my friends to the pub, get drunk, have a moan, I'll feel better. And there's just like kind of more in my arsenal now, I guess, for when I need to deal with something. And I think that if somebody were to ask me for advice and that's something, I would say, like, you need a few different things going on. Some of it involves talking, some of it involves intimacy, some intimacy, you know, some of it involves reflection and being comfortable on your own, being comfortable with silence, being comfortable with reflection.
Do you think that's something that comes with age, or do you think it's something you just have to kind of learn through life?
Like, I wish I'd learned it a bit sooner in life, I guess. But it probably does come a bit with age, I think. I mean, also when you're younger, the friendships that you make are very intense, and I think there's like a stronger sense that you can be like redeemed or saved by it in a way, and like friends can accompany you through life, but you know, you also need to be doing your own. I don't know, is it from age? I guess it's kind of from age, maybe. I don't like saying that because people hit these realizations at different points in life. I feel like these things hit me kind of late, and I know lots of other people figure this out much sooner.
Okay, so if there was one thing that men don't communicate as well, I think, is vulnerability. Yeah. So, if a man is faced with mental health issues, I think a man will quite happily say to another man, like, yeah, I'm going to do it, fuck it, I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it is probably what you hear a lot. Yeah, I'll just deal with it like a man. Yeah, so, and I think men have a kind of violent approach towards, because one of the things that men are allowed to feel is anger. Yeah. So I think they might direct anger towards their mental health issues or whatever. But it's kind of like it's like they've got far less emotional responses to mental health than women might have in terms of like expressing vulnerability. So maybe that would be something that would be interesting and useful for men, is to be able to just broaden. I think men talk about mental health, and I think men talk about the challenges they face, but it's just how they talk about it.
It's through other things.
Yeah. And you say, you know, like, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that, but like, fuck it, I'll deal with it.
Do you think that the pub plays a role in allowing men a space where they can feel more vulnerable?
Not really. I think that men, vulnerability, I can see the question would be like, where can vulnerability happen for a man?
Yeah.
And I think probably, for me at any rate, it's more in a relationship than in a group of men, because a group, when you're with a group of other men, friends, you know, like there's a level. There's part of your life that you just don't go to, and vulnerability is a bit part of that. But with a partner, I think that there's very little that I can't speak to a partner about.
Going to an all-boys school, there's a lot of kinds of emotional repression and sexual repression. There's a lot of homophobia in all-boys schools, which I think is quite interesting. There's a lot of jockeying for kind of like position between men when they're that age, boys when they're that age, which I think is often encouraged by schools in a reasonably negative way. You know, schools that kind of privilege the idea of competition, of, you know, dividing people into houses and then making them compete against each other to see who's the best at chess or whatever the fuck it is. You know, it doesn't inculcate a kind of self-help, you know, a kind of a mutual aid society. It encourages you to believe that competition is everything in society. You can't trust other people too much because they're your competition, and I think that kind of competitiveness is pushed more on men than it is on women in modern society.